There's a new movie out from the director of La Luna, M. Raihan Halim. This one is called Badak. It's currently showing in Malaysian cinemas. This one too stars Shahezi Sam, and it tells the story of a father and a daughter and how they overcome their differences between his needs and her ambitions. The twist in the tale, however, is that Shahezi Sam's character is deaf. And so the entire movie takes place in both Bahasa Malaysia and sign language. All of the actors learn to sign. And if it sounds to you like this is a coda type movie, then you would be wrong. While it shares a similarity with having a deaf character and a daughter that's interested in music, the similarities kind of end there. Everything else about this movie feels incredibly Malaysian. And it is set in Kampung Baru. It kind of addresses every complaint that Bahir and I have ever had about Malaysian movies. Every time we talk about directors wanting to make Malaysian movies, we always say if you can shoot a scene where two people are just talking to each other and make it compelling, then you've done more than 90% of directors in the local industry. Now, Raihan takes it one step further. He can shoot a scene with two people talking, but two people talking using sign language and still make that compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can almost be sure that a lot of what I will say about Badak would have been similar to what I said about La Luna. I mean, even then, the difference wouldn't be that big because La Luna came out of nowhere for me. Raihan Halim is a Singaporean director. I've never seen any of his work. And that came like a shot of heaven. And I think that blew me away. And walking into Badak, I was like, okay, this guy did something I really, really loved. Is he going to be able to match it? And I came out of Badak going 10 out of 10, no notes. This movie is fantastic. And that for me that's a real test, right? When you know of someone's work, can they match your expectations of that moving forward?
You know, the real test is taking a plot line like this, which is very common. The idea of a child's ambition versus a parent's needs and wants. We've seen it in cinema hundreds of times, and we've seen it in local film. Raihan doesn't necessarily lean into any of the cliche and any of that trope. And it's not just because he has one of the characters be deaf. It's also because he uses the relationship between father and daughter in a fascinating way. He brings in the grandfather's character, played by Wan Hanafi Su, and uses that as a point of conflict between the father and the daughter. And I think all of these story decisions were very, very cunning and not overly dramatic. But it works to create an environment and an atmosphere that keeps you completely engaged and just drawn into these characters and this story. It's such a simple story, but the execution is what makes it work.
Because it's such a simple story, it is so easy to make mistakes.
It is so easy to fall back on things that people have done before because it's right there for the plucking.
But it's also having the nerve to just follow through with what you think is right, with the story that you want to tell. You're right. They could have so easily made somebody else an external force to this duo. Instead, Raihan makes it about Badak's father, Mira's grandfather. Can I just say, when I first saw Tony Yusuf's character and Alvin Wong's character, my first reaction was, okay, so these are the bad guys. This rival food truck, this modern food truck up against Badak's burger stall thing. It could have so easily been that the external force that sort of tears them apart, or government issues. It could have been that. It could have so easily been Badak's fight against DBKL about getting a license, but it's not. It's a personal story. It's an intimate story. It is about a father and a daughter. And I thought that was beautiful.
All of the storytelling decisions that he takes here are what make this movie truly stand out. All of the actors learn sign language, but the depiction of sign language on screen is absolutely fantastic. Whenever Bada and Mira are talking, there is silence, as there should be. It is hardly ever punctuated with any music. You hear the sounds of KL around you. If they're standing on a rooftop and having a conversation, you hear the sounds of the city, which is how it should be. And it also draws you into the conversation a lot more than if there was some plinky plonky music playing in the background. Even during the emotional moments and the tense moments, you're paying attention to the signing. I think that's a bold decision and a brave decision. He also does away with that old trope where when a hearing person is signing, they decide to voice out what they are signing. Because that's what a drama Melayu will do or a TV show will do, because they're like, oh, wait, we got to do it for the audience because they may not want to read subtitles. But of course, in reality, if you're speaking to a deaf person and signing to a deaf person, you're not going to be voicing it out because nobody can hear you.
What you said there was quite true with what Raihan did here, in that he respects the audience. He expects the audience to be paying attention. He expects the audience, and maybe it's a Malaysian thing because we read subtitles all the time, that you will read the subtitles. That you are smart enough as an audience to read the subtitles and then look up for the reaction or the facial expression. Being able to do that and trusting in your audience was very important.
Mira is an aspiring hip hop artist. And the other thing that Raihan does very well is make sure he crafts appropriately great music. In a movie, in any story, if you're telling us that one of the characters is incredibly talented and can sing and can craft the right beats and can drop the right rhymes, she better be able to do it on screen, and she better be convincing, because you're not going to believe it otherwise. But the music in this movie is very catchy, is fantastic, and you can understand how this individual is going to command a crowd in an underground hip-hop rave.
Yeah.
It works. You believe it. I think all of these moments, all of that attention to detail is superb. And then the other thing Raihan does, much like what he did with La Luna, is stay away from all of those drama Melayu tropes. Yes, there is conflict, there is family drama, there are issues between father and son and father and daughter, but none of it is spelt out. All of it is shown through action. One of the big anchors of this movie is how Wan Hanafisu's character, the grandfather character, never learned to sign. You don't need to explain it. As soon as you see what's happening on screen, you realize what a shit move that is. And you realize how traumatic that must be towards his deaf son and how it would affect that relationship. There is no need for you to have this big melodramatic moment where suddenly all of the characters feel the need to voice out what you already understand. And Raihan does away with all of that. None of that is on screen. All of it is just implied and understood, and it makes for some really emotional storytelling.
And I think that's what's important, right? The story is emotional. The relationship that the director has built is what's emotional. It isn't a big fight. It isn't this big melodrama showdown. It isn't crying on screen. It isn't lame, bad music trying to get the audience to feel that way. The story that he's written is sufficiently emotional. It has all the points you need. If you are a person older than 15, you will know men like Badak's father. And you will understand what Badak's father put Badak through. And coupled with the fact that Badak is deaf, the chasm that is created between father and son. All of that was beautiful. You can read it any way you like, and I think you will still get to that point. But again, Raihan trusts the audience to play along. The director trusts the audience to keep up, to be paying attention, to not be fucking around with your phone, to notice that reaction that Badak has when his father, when Badak's father is quite flippant about like not using the right words and the right terms. Yeah, and I think that's what's important. It's all there. It's there on screen. It's there in the script.
The added layer of that, of course, is that Badak's father is a musician. And so there is an instant connection between the grandfather and the granddaughter, and it's something that Badak can never have with his own daughter. The other thing, and I'm always harping on this because I think I can't think of other Malaysian directors who actually pay any attention to this, but the depiction of Kuala Lumpur. Like, not since P. Ramlee has another director paid this much attention to KL. And I'm not saying there are these glamour shots of Kuala Lumpur and just constantly panning back and forth to the Twin Towers. KL in this movie feels lived in. It's
Yes.
not just a space. It feels like a character. And I feel like that's what's lacking in a lot of movies. The last time I saw something as poignant would probably be in Abang Adik. That was a different side of Kuala Lumpur, but I feel like that KL we never see on screen and is never depicted. And I think when you see it portrayed in a way that looks real and raw and gritty, it means something. And I think every city has a certain identity, and a lot of that identity is formed based on what we see on screen or read in fiction. KL isn't given that kind of love. And I like it when directors and writers, filmmakers just do that.
For me, the key is what you said earlier about how KL feels lived in. It's hard because when you're from that city, you almost look past the things that other people may find charming. But at the same time, you can tell that Raihan has spent time in Kuala Lumpur. And so the way he's depicted it is cinematic, but it isn't alien. The city feels lived in, like you said, but it doesn't feel like it's got gritty for gritty's sake. We've seen enough of Malaysian films where they try to do, in air quotes, gritty scenes, and it's just a car park on a roof and the ground is wet.
That's every scope action movie.
Yeah, but the reason they do it is because they're trying to pretend that it's Gotham. They're trying to shoot it the way other directors have shot Gotham. But it's not. This is Kuala Lumpur. And I think Raihan shoots Kuala Lumpur like Kuala Lumpur. The only thing I would sort of pull him up on, and this is more just like it's a storytelling thing, and I let him have it. But like, I've lived in Kuala Lumpur for 40 years. I have never heard of a car park hip hop rave lah.
I think it's because you don't spend enough time in Kampong Baru, my friend.
Dude, I was
Maybe there are
15
secret
minutes
car
away
park
from...
raves going on
Bro.
in Kampong Baru that we don't know about.
I don't know where there's a car park in Kampong Baru. You know, like, I mean, again, we joke, but yeah, not a big deal. Yeah. But no, I think Badak is a fantastic film, and if you who is listening to this decide that you're just gonna wait for it to show up on Netflix, next time I see you, I'm gonna call you a fucker to your face. No, because I feel like everybody who listens to this wants a vibrant, strong Malaysian film scene. And yet, when there is a strong fucking Malaysian film, you wait for it to show up on Netflix. Look, you know what? Wait for the Paul Thomas Anderson film to show up on Netflix. Go watch this instead.
Exactly. I think wait for the next Malaysian action movie to show up on Netflix. No one cares anymore. It's the same movie over and over again. Some of them may be better produced than others, but it literally is the same movie over and over again. There is very little creativity in these films.
And you know what else that also throws me off about a lot of these Malaysian action films? 3 or 4 of the same actors all the time.
Oh, it's the same people.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, is this that one or is it the other one? And sometimes both films come out in the same year by 2 different studios, and you go like, what is the fucking point?
Meanwhile, there are movies like Badak that are truly well-crafted pieces of cinema. And this is what you should be spending your money on. So we highly, highly recommend Badak. Go watch it in cinemas. You will not be disappointed. If you, like us, are craving a Malaysian cinematic scene, then these are the things you need to support. Let us know what you think once you've seen it. You know how to reach out. We're on Instagram on GogglerMY. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.